Hey everybody, welcome to another Broken Meeple video, and today, yes, you've all waited for me to review this one, haven't you? Coffee Roaster. How many times have I banged on about this on my various top 10s and top 100s and said, this is an amazing solo game, you have to play it, and sadly, you were never able to because I only had the Korean version and you could barely get hold of it, even if you were lucky enough to go to Essen. Well, now finally, DLP Games and Stronghold have brought this solo game to the mass market, so now you can get it in America and the UK. It's now on sale. Finally, I can talk about this game and do a proper review of it. In Coffee Roaster, you are making coffee, funny enough. You have a bag of tokens. It's a bag building game in which you are drawing these tokens out of the bag, different amounts each round, and doing various shenanigans with the tokens. Using the different rules per the tokens, whether they're beans or flavor tokens or something different. You will either discard them, they'll get stuck in your bag, you'll merge bean tokens together, you'll level them up from like a 0 to a 1 to a 2, for more roasted flavor. You'll leave them in the bag so that for the coffee requirements you can perform other different actions like draw and redraw or discard tokens or make life easier for later on. And what happens is during each round your coffee roaster machine is going to increase, and you might it might get really hot. You might end up with smoke tokens in your coffee because you're roasting this thing for really long, and at any point you can decide, what, I'm done roasting my coffee. I've done all the tweaks I can to this bag. I am done. At that point, you then pour your coffee out into this mug and draw 10 tokens one at a time. Some bonuses that you might have gained from the previous phase of the game may come into play here to make your life easier. But essentially, you are drawing these 10 tokens and attempting to meet the requirements of your coffee. And there's quite a few coffees that you've got in the game here where you can essentially pick your difficulty and pick your coffee. So all these different slips will give you a different type of coffee, beginner level, intermediate, or advanced, and they all have different requirements as well as a description of the coffee itself. You'll be trying to get your coffee to a specific rating, as well as, get other flavors in there or meet other particular requirements as per the coffee slip. You then compare your finished coffee to the coffee requirements and gauge your points and see how you've done on a rating system. There's no kind of win or lose in a sense. It's more of a case of how many points did you get and how well did you do. So as I go through this review, I will make small comparisons between this and the Korean version, although for the most part, you can just know that they are 99.9% identical. It's mainly a cosmetic difference. But let's have a look at this game in more detail. So first off, the duration. This is a very quick solo game. You will be done and dusted with a typical mug in about 10 minutes. 15 tops, maybe 20 minutes if you're trying to learn the rules and maybe you've forgotten a few of the rules. But then it's not a difficult game to learn, more on that in a minute. But you will be done in about 10 to 15 minutes typically. If you decide to do several coffees in a row, because you can either just do the one coffee on its own or do 1, 2, and 3, then it might take you about 30 minutes. But the longest I've ever spent playing this game to do a free coffee segment was 45 minutes, and I was rules checking because it had been a while since I played the game, and I was taking my time with the expert level coffee because, well, it's expert level, it requires some thinking. So this is definitely a very quick affair. It's not going to set you back a long time. You could easily just plug this into your day when you're like, what, I've got 30 minutes spare. I just fancy playing a bit of Coffee Roaster. So boom, done. Tokens are in the box. It's already organized so that you can effectively, if I get some of these components out, I can show you a bit easier. There you go. So the tokens are already in their own cubby holds, so you don't have to do a ton of setup. You can be basically up and running with this in no time at all. Although, slight caveat with the setup, no matter how you pack the rest of the stuff into this box, vertical storage not recommended. You might find that some of these tokens will start going all over the place. But then moving on to the ease of play, it's a pretty straightforward game. Anybody who's used to bag building will get this in no time at all. And even then, the rulebook is not particularly big. It's pretty straightforward affair. Oop, come on, I've got all sorts of components here, so I've got to be slightly careful. See? Not a huge rulebook, and if you really want to get to grips with it, you can even download the app version of this game. Some people claim, well, if I need the app, do I need the physical game? Well, that's down to your preference. I own both. Personally, I think the app is fine, but it could use a few UI tweaks to make it perfect. But, you know, if you want the physical components, then grab this game, you know, and the app. Use the app for travel and then have this one at home. Do what you like. But there's not a lot of rules in this game. They're pretty easy to follow. The rulebook is fine. You know, if you're used to this kind of bag building setup, you'll do even better. But really, all you need to know is how the rounds work, mainly for doing the whole bag building aspect. You could just have the rulebook in front of you and go through the whole pouring the coffee into the cup phase with the rulebook in hand. Because why not? It's essentially a kind of more involved scoring phase. But in terms of what the tokens do, they're pretty straightforward. You know, one token allows you to merge 2 beans into 1 bean, and another one allows you to draw 5 out of the bag and return 2. You know, it's stuff like that. It's not particularly difficult, and the iconography is relatively straightforward to understand, even if the board doesn't have a ton of ways to make it like perfectly intuitive, if that makes sense. So with ease of play, you're doing pretty well. This will handle anybody from a new gamer to a game cafe environment to a seasoned gamer. Anybody should be able to get used to this in time. Maybe it will take you 1 or 2 practice games as a brand new gamer. Now, tactics and strategy, this isn't a particularly strategic game. It's bag building. An inherent an inherent point about bag building is that it's going to be luck based. There's going to be a lot of luck in drawing tokens out of the bag and hoping, oh, I've got all of those, I drew all those this round, come on. And then obviously once you're done mitigating the luck with the bag building aspect, you've then got to draw 10 out at random to pour into your cup. You might have put really good tokens in that bag, and then you draw your bad ones. It's just going to happen. There are ways to mitigate the luck through effects that you can do, like you've got a couple of waste bits that you can do when you're pouring your mug. You might be able to unlock a bigger waste tray so that you can put more tokens out that you don't want. But you have to accept that this game does come with a high degree of luck. And as such, it's not really strategic, it's more tactical. But the choices that you can make are pretty vivid. You know, it's not like, dumb choice and right choice. No, you've got some tense moments where you're thinking, well, if I leave all the beans as they are, they'll level up. But then if I spend this red token, I can grab this. But I need to combine it with a blue. Do I really want to use a blue? Because I need one for the final cup if I want to get those bonus points. But hang on, those beans are going to burn soon. Maybe I need to get them down a bit or reduce their level, split them apart. You know, but then how many rounds am I going to do with this bag building thing? You know, I start on this level, I could take 1 turn, 3 turns, 5 turns, 6 turns, whatever. I can take as long as I like with this. How long do I want to take though? Am I leaving it a bit too long with all this jimmering around with the bag? Am I just going to get loads of sweat? There's a lot of choices. Not ridiculously brain-burny ones, but certainly plenty that every time you draw tokens out of the bag, you should, more often than not, have multiple ideas in your head for what you could do. It's not often that you will draw tokens out of the bag and just go, well, I might as well just level them up then. Occasionally that happens, but that tends to happen more with the beginner level cafes. And fair enough, it's getting you more used to the game. But, you know, for the most part, it's a tactical game. There's a fair bit of luck. Know that going in. For aesthetics, both versions of this I found to be perfectly fine aesthetics. I mean, the Korean version was a bit more cartoony, maybe a bit more kind of anime-ish like, whereas this one, you know, takes a bit more of a grown-up aspect. You know, the board actually looks like a coffee board in a sense. You know, you've even got the coffee stain on it here, and, you know, the iconography is still pretty nice to look at. It still, you know, strikes a presence on the board, but neither one of them were like, oh yeah, this is the most beautiful game in existence. But really, tomato, tomato. Pick your poison. You know, do you like the Korean version better or do you like the Stronghold version better? But at the end of the day, this is the one that you can get hold of. So it's not like you're settling for second best in its looks. It looks very nice and it is well produced. I mean, you've got the insert to sort out your stuff. Granted, you're going to have to store this horizontally, but it's nice that it's there. It's a good plastic insert. The tokens themselves are good and chunky, they're nice and thick. You know, you can easily like tell them in the bag, you know, not like tell them apart, but you know, it's not like you're searching the bag going, where on earth that ready token? You know, the board itself is pretty cool. It can be flipped for different difficulties. You've got an actual bag, obviously. You've got a little pouch with the coffee cards in it, so it's a nice convenient setup. It's generally for what price you're paying, which is not the cheapest thing in the world. It's in the £20. It's in the 20s, sorry, for like £25, £28. Not the cheapest solo game in the world, I admit. but I think you're getting your money's worth in terms of not only component quality, but also just general enjoyment from this game. Then we go into Immersion, the immersion of the theme, the integration of the theme, and it's a pretty strong thematic game. Granted, most people don't roast coffees by bag building. Okay, I mean, you have to abstract it to a point, but the idea that, you roast coffee for a certain amount of time, and then, you've seen baristas do their thing when you go to a coffee shop. They're there tinkering around with the machine, performing witchcraft as far as I'm aware. I don't know how to make coffee with those things, but, you just watch them do their thing. They're taking their time, and then they serve you the coffee, and they can do all the weird shapes on top. I like it when they get stuff like that. You pay the ends of the earth for that coffee, but still. But with this one, it just feels like, it's not like, oh, it's dripping with amazing theme, and the way that you're sort of splitting beans and combining beans and that, it's kind of like, this is the abstracted part. But in no way does this feel dry. It's got a very light theme to it, but a pleasant theme. You're just making coffee and pouring a nice cup of coffee. So much so that, when I play this game, I actually want to have a cup of coffee on the side while I'm playing it. I've even taught this game to friends of mine. I've just, put the coffee game in front of them and got them to play it while I supervised them in a coffee shop. I was waiting for Dice Portsmouth to open one time in between their party celebrations, and we went to Costa Coffee, literally across the road, for an hour. I just gave them this game, got them to play 2 games of this in a coffee shop. It just, something about it just brings that out. But yeah, okay, this isn't the most dripping thematic game ever, but you'll be immersed, you'll be engaged. It's only a 10 to 30 minute affair, and during that time, you're not going to be going bored or waiting for anybody because it's a solo game. Perfect. And then L, Longevity. With this one, there's a good amount of replay value in this box. I mean, firstly, it's going to take you a while to master the game in general, and you're never going to get to a point where you'll be able to succeed highly at every coffee you do. It's not going to happen. But there's certainly a lot of difficulties that you can tweak with in here. As I said, you've got a lot of coffees that you can mess around with here. I mean, wow, quite a lot. And that's a beginner, intermediate level, and expert, and that's if you just want to do one at a time. If you want to, effectively do 3 of them at once, then great. So I'll start off with a beginner level one. I'll just pick this one. And then, I did really well, so now I go up to an intermediate one. Okay, this one. And then an expert, and this one. And you've got a lot of combinations that you can do with this, just from the cards alone. But you can also flip the board and combine the, if I can find the other part of the board, where's it gone? It seems to have gone, walkies. Here we go. Sorry, a bit of a mess here. But you've got the board, you've got the coffee roaster part anyway, and then you've also got, where is that gone? There it is. Sorry, I'm a bit of a mess here on this table. But you've got the mug itself to pour everything in, and look, it looks like a mug of roasted coffee. But you can flip this board and tweak this in such a way that the difficulty increases or decreases to your liking. So if you have it on one side, the abilities are, a little bit harder to get, or you don't get as many waste spaces. And so you've got about 3 or 4 different ways that you can combine the difficulty rating just from the boards alone. And then you've got the different coffees where you can make all these different types of coffee from beginner, intermediate, and expert level difficulty. And they're all really varied. Some give you a ton of water at the start. Some require you to start at the very first level and roast for most of the entire counter. Some require you to start really high and then think you might want to be pouring that mug literally within a round or 2. There's a lot of variation, a lot of tweaks that you can do. Certainly, this will give you a good amount of replay value. So my final word on Coffee Roaster is that this is one of the best solo games that you can buy right now, giving players the element of bag building in a condensed, well-produced edition that is now finally available to all. It is a must-buy for any solo gaming fans, giving players exactly what you want in a nice, lightweight, 30-minute package. This is getting a top of the range 10 out of 10 for me and a seal of distinction. If you are into solo gaming at all, you need to grab yourself a coffee. Of
course I've been up all night. Not because of caffeine, it was insomnia. I couldn't stop thinking about coffee. I need a nap. Coffee time!
a copy of Coffee Roaster, because it really is just that fun a game. Yes, you have to contend with a bit of a high luck factor, and if that's gonna, irk you in any way, then perhaps you can look elsewhere. But I think for the majority of people out there, this is just a superb solo game that is finally now available to everybody, so that I can actually finally talk about the wretched thing. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple review, and for now, whether or not you have burnt my coffee or served me a cup of brown sludgy goodness, that sounds weird, but whatever, it's still only a game and only a cup of coffee. I'll see you on the next video.